Were there no customers again today? I asked my father, who was quietly sharpening a knife in the kitchen of his restaurant, a knife he considers his alter ego.
I don't know what to do.
I looked at the photo of my parents that was displayed at the entrance of the store and was shocked to see my father's weak and listless appearance. That I looked around the nostalgic store, looking at my mother smiling cheerfully beside my father in the photo, thinking that she was not doing anything about it, saying she was reminiscing about her memories. My name is Alex. My wife is Emma, a strong, solid woman like my mother, and we have a beautiful son, Henry, who just turned 8 years old. My father worked as a chef at a hotel, and when he finished his training, he and my mother opened an Italian restaurant. The restaurant was reasonably prosperous, but 2 years ago, after taking time out of their busy schedule, my mother suddenly passed away from illness the day after they had talked about going shopping together for a school bag for their son. It took a while for the family to come to terms with the reality of her passing, as she had been an energetic mother who had never shown any signs of illness, but had managed to control my father, who was a craftsman, and beat him on his butt. I, with the help of my wife, have managed to accept it now, but my father, who lives on the second floor of the store, has too many memories, and even now, 2 years later, he has not recovered from the grief of losing his wife, as if time had stopped. Perhaps because of this state of mind, he closed the store many days and gradually lost customers. The recession had made people go out for a drink less frequently, and the fact that large restaurants with private rooms were more popular than those with gloomy owners also contributed to the decline in the number of customers. And there were many days when there were no customers at all, and the restaurant was now losing money. That was no wonder. My father, who was somewhat uncomfortable with the idea of operating a business by himself, had a hard time opening at different times, was not very friendly, and was not very good at serving food. The recession was a factor, but the regulars who came to the restaurant out of pity for my father's condition were also gradually disappearing, and the restaurant had only a surplus of ingredients. It was only natural that the restaurant would continue to lose money. I wondered why there were no customers today. I asked my father, who was quietly sharpening the knife he cherished as his alter ego in the kitchen of the restaurant.
I don't know what to do.
I could not say anything strong to my father, who was looking away from me, thinking about his memories with my mother again. I switched gears and told my father what I wanted to do today. Okay. I'm thinking of taking a trip with my family soon.
Okay, well, be careful.
No. Let's go together. You've been running a restaurant, and you haven't traveled and relaxed. And Henry says he'd like to be with Grandpa. I mentioned my grandson's name to invite him for a change. I knew that my father would not come even if I invited him. My father, who had been reasonably strict with his son, was so kind to his grandson that I thought he was a different person. My father nodded silently and asked me about the schedule that I had a plan for this trip. My family and I had booked a room at a spa hotel in the mountains. I was going to book 2 rooms, and I was about to be with my father in the room. But Henry said in the car,
I'm going to sleep with Grandpa. I'll read to you.
So I decided to keep an eye on him. Apparently, Henry had heard me say that my father hadn't been sleeping well lately, and after thinking about it,
Oh well.
he seemed happy. I wondered if he even realized that he was supposed to tuck him in, but I was glad to see my father smile for the first time in a long time, and I was glad I had invited him on the trip, even if it didn't accomplish my goal as quickly as I had hoped it would. When we arrived at the hotel, it was more luxurious than I had expected. It was not glittering, but it had a stately image of its history, and the stained glass skylights were delicately constructed. The manager was also courteous. since we had some time before dinner, he recommended the spa, which he was very proud of, so we all got ready and decided to go in the spa. I didn't want to be alone with my father at the spa, who was enjoying himself so much, so I invited Henry to join me and the three of us went to the spa. My wife, who must have known what I was up to, gave me a slightly delicate look, but she was glad to be able to enjoy the spa by herself and came back to me in a good mood. When I returned to the room, the food had already started to arrive and was placed for the number of people. Appetizers and other items heated by solid fuel were lined up, and I could see my father's eyes light up.
What's this wrapped around? Radishes? Turnips. I see you pre-boil it once, then bake it, then cook it again.
We started eating and my father was unusually excited about how delicious the food was and how delicate and interesting the technique of making it was, when the manager brought the food and spoke to him, as if he had heard my father and I talking.
You know a lot about it. Many people don't know how to make this dish.
My father is a chef, and he used to train at a restaurant.
No. I am just a retired old chef.
My father, perhaps nervous of the beautiful manager, was modest. I watched him with a smile on my face.
I'm glad the professionals were pleased. I'll let our chef know about it.
Seeing my father so excited for the first time in a long time, I felt that he still wanted to cook, but at the same time, I was thinking that the restaurant would continue to lose money if he didn't change his mind. She was standing beside me, as if she knew everything I was thinking.
Did you really talk to your father about it?
I was having a hard time saying it. You see, Henry was with me the whole time. When I said that, she looked at me a little coldly, probably on purpose.
You told me you were going to close up store and invite your father to come and live with us. I was prepared to do that as the eldest son's wife, so you need to talk to him now while you can. You came all this way just to talk to me in a different place than usual, didn't you?
Yes. This trip itself was our intention to pull my father out of the store so that he would listen to us properly. We were enjoying the food and taking our time. Henry was so excited that he fell asleep, and I told my father, "I'm sorry you didn't get to read your storybook," I said to him. I patted him gently on the stomach and said, "I'd like to go to the spa before bed if you want." I invited him to join me at the spa. He was no fool, he probably knew what I was up to.
Sure,
he said. He looked at my wife briefly, smiled, and followed me. "How was your day, Dad?"
it was good, thanks.
I said, "Dad, you know, just like this, why don't you stay with Henry? And close up the restaurant and live with us?"
Leave together. What does Emma say?
Emma says. That Emma is like my mother. I said this, remembering my firm, gentle wife, but my father shut up when he heard it. "Dad, you have lost your wife, but I lost my mother too." My father looked at me with a huff as he said this. I was grateful for the darkness around me. He didn't look like a middle-aged man would. I have fond memories of the restaurant and the house upstairs. I know. Mom loved the restaurant. I loved that you were cooking so well, and that's why I feel it's my duty to make sure you have a smile on your face. I'm worried about you. And I hope you live a long life. My father's face showed that he was beginning to think seriously about it, unlike before, although he did not explicitly say so. The next morning, I invited my father, who was already awake, to enjoy the spa at his leisure, thinking that a spa hotel would have a jacuzzi. But on the way home, the hotel began to shake with a loud rattling sound.
It is an earthquake, and a big one at that.
My father and I waited in the hallway just before returning to our guest room for the earthquake to settle. After a while, the shaking stopped, but something was wrong. It was still dark all around us. It seemed that the power had gone out at the inn.
Guests, please remain calm and act slowly. Although the power is out, the building is not in danger.
It's probably because everyone was a little panicked. The manager was guiding and talking to them in a slightly louder but slower tone, perhaps to reassure them. I was worried about my family too and tried to call them, but I guess it was because everyone around me was using the phone. The line was busy, but I couldn't get through. The room was on the 6th floor, so I casually headed toward the elevator where the manager was.
The elevator is out of service due to a power outage. Please wait in the lounge or take the stairs.
The manager, seeing our faces, seemed to know our room number and called out to us. I thought it was the stairs but I was worried about my family and was about to head there when I received a call from my wife on my cell phone app asking if we were safe but where we were. Dad, Emma, and the kid are fine. As I was saying this and telling her I had received a call, the waitress came running to the manager. She said,
Manager, oh my God. Sous chef hurt his dominant hand when he fell down during the earthquake earlier, and his back hurts too.
Oh no. The manager, who had been giving instructions briskly just a moment ago, looked troubled. Is everything all right?
I heard that. The chef can't work anymore, and he said some people couldn't come to work because of the earthquake earlier. We also have a group reservation for 30 people for lunch after this.
That's a lot of work, I said, and the manager made a face that said,
I'm sorry for telling you this.
He said,
but it's not something I would tell a customer.
The manager then turned to leave, probably to take action, and my father spoke to him.
If you'd like, you can let me help you.
Both the manager and I were a little surprised at my father's words.
As I told you yesterday, I run an Italian restaurant, and I was wondering if I could be of some help.
The manager, while appreciative, seemed troubled and froze, as if wondering whether it was right to ask such a thing of a customer. He must have sensed this. He is usually a man of few words, but my father began to talk about his feelings. He said,
I have enjoyed the delicious hospitality here, and for the first time in a long time, I realized that cooking is a good thing. It made me realize that cooking is something that gives people energy and vitality. So I want to give something back.
I'm glad to hear you say that, but we also have a power outage.
The manager seemed to be feeling a little vulnerable because there were obviously a lot of problems that needed to be resolved.
For example, how about going buffet style?
It's easy to make and keep, and with the right amount of solid fuel, we can serve hot food. That's what I would expect from working in a restaurant. My father kept coming up with ideas that could be done even during a power outage. He spoke so clearly that I felt like the father I used to know. Since I was scheduled to return home that day, I was so happy to see my father's condition that I immediately rushed up the stairs, which I thought was too much trouble, to tell my wife what was going on. When I told her, my wife looked a little surprised, but somewhat happy. She said,
That's my father-in-law. He never leaves anyone in trouble.
After laughing at that, I told Henry to pack up his drawing supplies and his favorite picture books to pass the time.
Well, shall we do it then? Helping people.
What? Henry was quickly getting ready, and I think I was the one who had the least idea what my wife meant when she said that. After we went to the manager's office as a family, we were so busy that I don't even remember. My father worked in the kitchen and my wife and I helped serve the food. My wife helped on busy weekends or when my mother had to run errands, and I had been forced to help out in the family business, so I had no qualms about being a waiter. Henry, too, was probably because he had been taken to the store since he was a little boy. Perhaps because he was used to sitting quietly in the corner of the store, playing by himself, but when customers came, he would borrow their half-coats and greet them cutely, helping to guide them.
What a cute little child manager.
Henry was adored by the elderly group of customers, and even received such a comment. Perhaps because of this, when the manager told them about the menu change and apologized, the customers' reactions were mild and did not cause any trouble. Moreover, the power was restored in the middle of the lunch, which allowed the group of customers to finish their lunch without more trouble. We apologized to the lunch guests for the further menu change and gave them homemade biscotti as a souvenir. The souvenir biscotti was my father's idea. My father's restaurant also gave away little biscotti and cookies on the way home, so I told the manager that if it was possible, I would like to do it, and he said it was a good idea and adopted it. The group guests were.
I'll enjoy it along the way, thank you.
They were very happy and went home.
Thank you so much for going along with my selfishness. I'm sorry, Emma, who planned this so that we could spend time together to make me relax.
My father said as we all took a break to eat the leftover biscotti we had given away to our guests. It was still cool to see you cooking. Thank you so much, Emma, too. I told him that, and the manager came over to thank us.
Thank you so much. Not only did it go off without a hitch, but it was a huge success.
The manager bowed deeply.
I am here to thank you. After my wife passed away, cooking reminded me of her, and for a while it was hard for me to even hold a knife. But having the opportunity to dine here with you all has made it more enjoyable than it has been in a long time. Thank you so much.
The manager, who was staring intently at my father as he did so, made him a proposal.
I don't mean to impose, but would it be possible for you to work here for a while longer? The chef went to the hospital and they said it would be difficult for him to work in the kitchen for a while, so I was wondering if you could help us.
What?
At first, my father was surprised, but he must have really enjoyed what he did today, because he finally agreed. I was also surprised at his decision, but once I saw the look on his face, I couldn't stop him. My wife seemed to feel the same way and told me that as long as my father was doing well, it didn't matter where he was. We left that day because we had work and school, but my father worked as a chef for the next month, sleeping in a spa hotel. There was only a sign in the restaurant that said he would be closed for 3 days, so I decided to wait for his decision and changed the sign to say he would be closed for a while. One day, however, I received a call from my father and decided to go back to the inn for the holidays.
Hey, welcome back.
He said and welcomed me. My father was already making this place feel like home, and I laughed a little. As soon as we got there, he invited me to go to the spa. I'm glad you're feeling better, Dad.
Yeah, I'm sorry I worried you. When your mother passed away, I was too sad to take care of you, and I'm sorry I didn't.
My father's face looked really bad when he said that. I decided to close the restaurant.
Mom fell in love with me because I was a cool cook. Now that I remember that, I'm going to stay here.
I couldn't help but laugh when he told me about his parents' joke so earnestly. What's that? The spa was filled with the sound of my laughter and my father's slightly embarrassed laugh. My father, who had started working as a chef at the spa, seemed to be more suited to the job than I had expected, and the food he cooked became so popular that it was even mentioned in the hotel's reviews. When I went to see him 3 months later, he was even more lively than before. He was just preparing fish in the kitchen, and when Henry saw him, his eyes lit up and he called out to him,
"Grandpa, cool."
Father, noticing his voice, smiled and said,
I bet I am.
He was in such good spirits that I thought even his personality had changed. Over a late lunch prepared by my father, I asked him how he was doing, and he laughed and said, I can go to the spa as much as I want and cook as much as I want.
I'm sure Mom is happy to see me looking so cool.
I wondered if he was still going to say that, but everyone laughed when my wife agreed. Seeing my father like that, I've got to work hard too. I'm going to be a cool dad too. I got into the spirit, but was a little embarrassed because everyone laughed even harder. It's never too late to start your life over. Now is the youngest you can be. You only live once. If I want to do something, I want to move forward with it. It's okay if we fail, because we can start over again as many times as we want. Seeing my father in such good spirits, I renewed my determination to take on any challenge in life.